This is my review of the mini-series, 5-part series, Chernobyl, which was released in 2019. I watched the 5 episodes over a 3 to 4 day period, and I watched the conclusion yesterday, and it's had a tremendous impact on me. I found it was a slow burner, and the first episode particularly I was a little indifferent to. But before I get into details, let's just go through slowly what we're going to comment on here. Chernobyl was a nuclear disaster that took place in 1986 on April the 26th in the Ukraine, which at that time was part of the Soviet Union, and it was regarded at the time, and probably still today, as one of the most dangerous nuclear disasters on record. Although at the time, I must admit, I was 32 years of age, and although it was reported in a serious way by the news stations in the UK, the actual ramifications were never really explained fully to the public. And after witnessing this dramatic reconstruction of what happened before, what happened during, and what happened after this event of cataclysmic proportions, I still feel that the world really wasn't clearly made aware of the implications of what took place on that day, and this series certainly unfolds all that. Just a quick look at the people who were involved in this thing, and I'm thinking specifically of the writer Craig Mazin, the director Johan Renck, and the cast. There's a huge cast, but I'm going to focus on 6 of them that I felt made a tremendous impact on me as a viewer. In the lead role, Jared Harris played Valery Legasov, who was a nuclear scientist at the time, a highly regarded one. And he is integral to how this story unfolds throughout all 5 episodes. Stellan Skarsgard plays the deputy member of the Politburo, Boris Shabina. He is within an arm's length of the General Secretary, Mikhail Gorbachev. Emily Watson plays Ulana Komyuk, another expert in nuclear physics. We then have Jessie Buckley, who plays Lyudmila Ignatenko, the wife of one of the men who was actually in the room at the time that the explosion took place. Her husband, Vasily, played by Adam Nagaitis. Another member who was in charge in the room when this event took place, Paul Ritter plays Anatoly Dyatlov. And then in episode 4, Barry Kogan plays Pavel, and he is only in this episode. He, a member of the military, who is recruited, and his job is to clean up the area, a large perimeter of land circling the nuclear facility at Chernobyl was designated as an area that needed to be cleaned of all evidence of radiation. Population was moved out, and animals, both domestic and wild animals, were to be shot and buried in cement concrete to prevent the spread of the radiation sickness. So that covers that, the cast. The first episode, as I say, it leads up to the explosion. The staff are about to carry out what is regarded as a safe test to be clear that they are able to control the nuclear reactor, and this test has been delayed on a number of occasions, and the day, April 26th, is assigned as another test day, and what we witness is yet another delay of hours, but the person in charge, Dyatlov, is uncompromising in his control and direction to his staff, that even though there will be a delay, that the test will be carried out at all costs. And this proves to be a fatal decision, mistake, as will become evident as the series developed. Following the blast, which was directed in such a way as to leave nothing unknown about the severity, as these immediate staff witnessed to have severe burns, radiation burns. The explosion is catastrophic, and quickly after the initial few hours, Legazov is instructed to report to Chernobyl, Skarsgard, and he advises the Deputy General Secretary that on the roof of the reactor there is graphite, which indicates that the reactor has basically broken up and is emitting huge amounts of radiation minute after minute, and that somehow that has to be cleared from the roof into the reactor core, which will then enable the reactor to be sealed with concrete. But that cannot be started because the dangers of the radiation is so severe that any helicopter overhead would immediately get into trouble, as the effect on the operator of the helicopter would be disastrous, and the helicopter would inevitably crash before it could get rid of its load, a heavy load of lead type concrete. And so the situation is pointed out clearly by Legasov that this has to be done quickly, and that there is a danger also that the radiation will leak into the water supply, which will leak into the nearby river, which would affect, along with the weather, the wind, is likely to affect virtually all of Eastern Europe with devastating consequences. So we get a clear picture of the catastrophe that's unfolding and the urgency for a swift response. However, the politics within the Soviet Union is such that they continue to pretend to the world news that the situation was quite a minor event and there are no serious risks involved, and they are hiding behind this facade, and this becomes increasingly difficult for Skarsgard's character, Shebina, to swallow. We then get the introduction of Emily Watson's character, who's supportive of Legasov's assessment of the situation. We witness heroic acts. We saw that right from the beginning when firemen rush in to try and quell the flames and immediately get heavily dosed with irradiation and die within hours. We then are told that the fact that the reactor is full of water has to be drained quickly, and 3 volunteers are basically told that they must do it for the Soviet states' face saving, and they go in under the reactor to release the water out to minimise the inevitability of an explosion that would be insurmountable, way beyond the explosion that happened with the dropping of the atomic bomb on Hiroshima. And then we also are told that miners have to be created to dig a tunnel once again under the reactor to enable a release of the possibility of further astronomical damage as a result of the nuclear reactor being out of control. And we go through these series of incidents that are critically important for the survival of the population within a 50-kilometre radius, but also those far beyond even the Ukraine. So it's a tale that grows on you as you watch. You become more consumed by the urgency, by the fear, by the devastation. We witness horrendous scenes in a Moscow hospital where the injured have been taken, and those in the immediate vicinity of the blast have severe radiation burns, and they have a mere few days before their demise. And it's it's extremely hard watch, that's to say the least. And that is when we get a taste of the relationship between Lyudmila and her husband Vasily, as she makes efforts to try and make contact with him. She has good news. She is pregnant, and even though he is within hours of dying, she is determined to pass on that to him, and the consequences of her attempts to hold him, to feel close to him, become apparent later in the story, as she starts to be invaded by the radiation and the impact on our unborn child. We also then witness the situation in the outside the immediate area that was contaminated, where the wildlife have to be destroyed and domestic animals have to be destroyed. One episode focuses to a great extent on a small group of soldiers whose job is to shoot and bury all the wildlife in the area, and a young recruit is brought in for this task. Barry Cogan, who was in The Killing of the Sacred Deer, plays Farwell, and witnessing how that unfolds is really hard, particularly if you are an animal lover, as the leader of the group teaches Pavel how to be free of emotion as they go about systematically killing dogs and cats, desperate for human contact as they are becoming affected by the radiation. And it's really a hard watch, as I say. But as we move towards the situation having got under some semblance of control, the question is then asked, how did this happen? And the involvement of Emily Watson's character, Ulana, her job is to find out the reasons behind how it happened and she goes about interviewing those that were in that control room hours before they perish with the radioactive emissions. And we then have a scenario where the powers that be, the Politburo, are involved and attempt to try and cover up the real reason behind how this happened. And it's clearly a mixture of politics and human error, neither of which the Soviet Union's Communist Party want to share with others. But we witness a sort of a court scenario where within the Soviet Union, where the three protagonists, Legasov, Sherbina and Komyak, give evidence to that tribunal, and they then have to share this with the rest of the world, and the aftermath of that is serious consequences to particularly Legasov, because he lays it out line by line, minute by minute, what happened in that control room and how a series of disastrous decisions under the auspices of Dyatlov led to the explosion within the core of the nuclear reactor. The performances by those three particularly is outstanding, and thankfully, having just had the Golden Globes, the TV Awards reflected that. It won the Best Television Limited Series award, and also for Best Actor in a supporting role. Stella Skarsgard was the winner, and nominations. Jared Harris was nominated for Best Performance by an Actor, and Emily Watson also nominated for Best Performance by a Supporting Actor. And the Emmys, the awards were in abundance for this mini-series. As I said, I've been thinking about it considerably, and it certainly provoked a fury in me about the continuing role of governments all around the world to hide information from the public. And this is a clear example of information being hidden from the public that could have had disastrous consequences. It had severe ones. It's believed, although the Soviet Union kept very few records, it's believed that up to at least 100,000 people have perished as a result of this nuclear accident, although the Soviet Union's records indicate that only 31 lost their lives as a result of this, and they were the people in the control room in the nearby area of the reactor. And it just really makes me so angry about how the public are treated very much like Orwell predicted, as secondary in importance, and that the image, the national image, is sacrosanct in terms of its importance. So don't be put off by the content of this particular mini-series. The Jared Harris, possibly the best performance of his career. Stella Skarsgard, who's always been good, absolutely awesome. And Emily Watson, a woman that's had a number of 5-star performances. It's worth watching this series just to witness their high qualities. So get to look at it. It's called Chernobyl.